Welcome. Please join me in welcoming to the interview area Viktor Hovland. Viktor, talk a little bit about what you're seeing out of the course so far this week.
Yeah, I've only played the front nine, played it yesterday. It was, I've only been here once before, and I thought it was, it's a lot more severe than I remember it being. So I think last time I was here, it was really soft, and I'm sure the pins were kind of middle of the green, so I didn't really think too much about potential pin placements. But yeah, it's a hard golf course, but it's cool. I like it.
We're going to go here to Mark on the left.
Viktor, I just wanted to ask you about Scotty and what he's been doing and what your impression is about just the run he's been on for this period of time.
Yeah, very impressive. You know, it's, I think he's kind of, like, obviously we can play well and compete against him when we're playing well, but he just seems to bring that game every single week and kind of is taking the level of consistency just to another level. Yeah, it's just super impressive. Like you can have a nice little run, but then most of the time you seem to kind of fall back to whatever more average week, but his average week is just really good. It's just very, very impressive to watch, and definitely makes me work harder and motivates me to get better and try to compete against them. But it's, yeah, super cool to watch.
On the right, we're going to go Luke and then Dan.
Hey, Viktor. I've seen you rehearse this kind of head back, side bend move. Just wondering if you could explain some of the specifics of that to me and just generally how it's feeling, how the swing's feeling these days.
That's probably, I probably shouldn't rehearse that because that's what I don't want to do. Yeah, I mean, I've just been side bending and tilting a little bit from the top of the backswing, and it just gets me in trouble. So I need to kind of do the opposite of that. So yeah, that's just what I'm working on.
And how's it feeling, just kind of generally, just the swing, the tweak?
It hasn't been quite as good as I'd like to, but played 9 holes yesterday, and it was a little so-and-so, but went to the range after, and I felt like I found a little better feel to accomplish the same thing. And so I'm curious to see what happens when I go out there and play today and the next couple of days, kind of see how that works. But yeah, I know what I need to do. It's just kind of finding the feel that accomplishes it in the best way possible.
Dan?
Your chipping has been something that has been discussed a lot. Do you feel like you'll chip a lot this week, or do you feel yourself maybe putting it from off the green?
I think there'll be a decent amount of putts, because I think with how grainy it is around the greens, and there are certain slopes that are just, they're so steep. And a couple spots yesterday, I think it was, like, for example, over the green on 8, the drop-off is so severe, and I hit a couple of chips that were, like, really nice and spinning, and I hit it to gimme. And you do that a couple of times, and you can get a little bit cocky doing it, but then because it's so hard into the grain, if you're just off by a little bit, you're going to look like a fool. And I just think, you know, if you take an average of 20 shots, the putter is going to be way better than the chip is. So I think in a lot of spots, I'm going to putt it, but there are some spots where, okay, I think the chip is better. So it's kind of hard to give you an answer, but maybe it'll be somewhere close to 60-40 with putter, maybe.
We're going to go here, left corner.
Viktor, you said you like it here. What specifically do you like about the challenge you're going to face this week?
Yeah, I just think it's just really cool design. I think off the tee, it's fair. Off the tee, there are some narrow fairways, but it's generous enough. And if you hit it offline, you can potentially get penalized. There is some luck involved in kind of missing the fairways here. Sometimes you might have a good lie, and sometimes it's just a hack out. But I think it just visually looks really cool off the tee. And I'm just a really big fan of greens that are raised up and rolls off on the sides. I think that's kind of how golf courses should be designed. I just think it's just the best way possible to design greens. I think in some spots, some of the pin locations look a little bit suspect, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how it works out. But yeah, I just think it's really cool. Like, you got to drive it well into the greens. It's a very high value of hitting greens, and then with so much slope and how fast the greens are, you got to really have some touch on the greens as well.
We're going to go right, Mark, and then Adam.
Victor, yesterday, Wyndham said the greens were borderline. How would you describe them?
Well, because of all the rain that happened a couple of nights ago, it's soft. Like, the greens are not that firm. And not to throw my caddy under the bus, but if he's putting the pins in the right locations where the pins were last time, then there are just multiple spots where I'm hitting a putt to a disc and I miss it maybe a foot low side with just a hair too much speed, and the ball is off the green. And it doesn't just roll off the green. Sometimes it rolls off the green and into, the bush. So it's like, seems to me that some of those pins are a little bit close to the drop-offs. So I don't really know where they're going to end up putting the pins, but if they were, in my opinion, borderline yesterday when the greens were soft, what if it starts blowing up a little bit and the greens just keep getting firmer and faster? It'll be just interesting to see. I've only played 9 holes, so I'm not going to make a quick judgment, but that was my first impression.
Stay there with Adam.
Victor, can you describe the difference in how you felt leaving the Masters versus leaving the PGA?
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day. It was pretty miserable leaving the Masters. But, I think that's just one of those things where you kind of have to hit whatever rock bottom is, or at least feeling like you hit a pretty low point, because I think that's when you pull yourself out of it, or you got to make some decisions to course correct. And I'm just happy, at some point that I was able to course correct, and now we're on a way better path.
And was there any sense of, man, I missed an opportunity to get my first major?
At the Masters?
No, no, at the PGA.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little bit disappointed, but I mean, the context of being like not really wanting to show up at a golf tournament because I just knew it wasn't good enough, to, wow, I actually just had a chance to win a major championship without my best stuff. Like, I just found a field that was better, but I still didn't feel comfortable all week. And I'm just taking the positives out of that. It's like, yes, you don't get an endless amounts of opportunities to win major championships. So obviously, when you're in the heat of the moment, you want to take advantage of those. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy that I'm playing better, and if I keep kind of improving and I'm on the right trajectory, then hopefully in the future I get one done.
Here on the left aisle, Dan.
Victor, another Scotty question. From what you see, what's the biggest part of his game that's making him so good right now?
Yeah, I mean, you can't win that many tournaments or be up there on the leaderboard without doing everything well. Because if he had holes in his game, he wouldn't perform as well as he would. But I think he has he just hits it very, very straight. It's very reliable. We all hit great shots out here, and there are a lot of guys that are impressive. But, the old saying, it's not about how good your good shots is, it's how bad your bad shots are. And he's certainly, he's playing the game where his bad shots are still good. Like, they're still in play. He doesn't have to worry about, man, I hope this big miss doesn't show up, because there is no big miss. So when you couple that with a really, really high-level short game, it's just easy to play the game of golf.
Far right, Gabby.
Hey, Victor. With some of the luck involved of missing the fairway, you could end up in a terrible spot or you could be fine. Are you changing your approach to your strategy off the tee? Or are you playing more conservatively because of that, or are you just accepting the reality of what could happen?
I'd say, in general, I think the best players play aggressively off the tee and conservatively into the greens. And I think this course is basically that strategy, just on steroids. I think, not that I'm going to be hitting driver everywhere, because there are some holes that play for positioning. But I will definitely be pretty aggressive off the tee. I like hitting drivers, because if you miss it, you still might have a decent chance from a fairway bunker or the bush, whatever you want to call it, especially into some of these greens where they're so demanding and you have to hit such a small target. So I think having a shorter club in is very important, but then into the greens, you got to play very, very conservatively, because I think just hitting the greens itself is of high value.
Last question, back right, Amelia.
What are the challenges between transitioning into the beginning of the week where you're trying to find just that swing feel to competitive mode where you're focused on getting the ball in the hole?
Well, ideally, you don't really want to start the week off by trying to find a feel. You want to be just ready to go and know your stuff is good enough, and then it's a matter of just purely getting to know the golf course, where you want to hit it, where you want to miss it, down in the speed, what is the grass, turf, how does that interact with your ball when it lands, how does it feel with your club when it's moving through the ground, all that stuff. But optimally, you don't want to think about technique when you're out here trying to win a major championship. But that's a game of golf. It's like your game could be good, but then one week something happens and you gotta tweak something. So. Yeah, hopefully you spend as little time as possible trying to manicure the golf swing or find a feel.
I know you mentioned that you were working on something, so I didn't know how you make that transition when you're just trying to get better and then focusing on that tournament round.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a balance. You want to obviously be on a trajectory that makes you improve over time, but also play the best golf that you can right now. And if there's a feel that's going to make you play better, well, now you got to find the feel that's the easiest thing for you to think about when you're playing golf, because all that stuff goes out the window when you're out there in a tournament.
Thanks, Victor. Good luck this week.
Thank you.